What was your worst crap I procrastinated for too long experience? When classes were suspended for a few days and it was the night before my midterm in stats. That's when I realized I procrastinated too much and I wasn't prepared whatsoever for the exam. But luckily, it was also suspended on that day as well. Risky play but it paid off. Cotton. When I said I'll start studying at 12 o'clock but when I checked the time it was 12:01 and then I was like LOL NVM. I'll actually start at 1300 hours and the same thing happened over and over and before you know it, it was midnight. I meant the other 12. In college, doing a performance course, I had to keep a handwritten journal of all my classes as I took them, so I could chart my progress throughout the term, which would then be handed in to be assessed with my final performance. I started writing them the day before the hand-in deadline. 3 months of classes, handwritten. 3 classes a week, at least a page for each class. Yeah, I pulled my finger out after that. This reminds me of when I completed an entire 5-credit online economics class in 5 days. 1 credit's worth of assignments per day. It was pretty much just 18 hours of economics every day. I managed to get an A but after I finished I was a completely different person emotionally. It took me a couple weeks to recover. It was my daughter's wedding last year. I still feel sick when I think about it. Nothing went too wrong and she was still happy with it but I seriously dropped the ball on getting the decorations ready, the food. For all the planning we had put into it, it was not the glamorous affair it was going to be. The day of the wedding my brain completely checked out. Only half of what was planned got done. She just celebrated her first anniversary and I still can't think about her wedding without getting a gut punch of guilty. I want a do-over. Right now, as I'm freaking off on Reddit with a German test I have not started studying for occurring in 3 hours and 18 minutes. Go study now. I studied for my MCAT a few days ago. Not the 3 months recommended, not even 3 weeks, but 3 days before. There was also a particularly stupid one in high school that cost me. I was in my senior year and deep in senioritis. I slacked off most in my military history class, putting in the bare amount of effort for an easy A. The class had weekly current event papers due. Really simple things. Just write a paragraph about some conflict or new piece of tech being revealed in the world. It had the most lenient late policy ever. You could submit stuff months later for credit. Well, I just got super lazy and didn't hand in 3 months worth of current event papers. I waited until the last minute, as grades were being entered and frozen in the system, to sprint out of my gym class, print them at the library and run over to submit them. And I couldn't. The teacher had locked in grades literal seconds before I opened the door and was getting ready to leave. From an easy A to a D in minutes, when it didn't need to be, which messed my GPA and put me toward my safer school for college. If I ever had the chance to redo high school, that'd be on my bucket list. Word of advice, don't ever do that in med school. In like grade 6 or 7 when we were doing a unit on probability in math our teacher decided it would be fun to have us all essentially turn the class into a casino so he had us all design games where we weren't allowed to make it rigged so it was impossible to win but the house had to win 60% of the time. It took me forever to come up with a good idea and when I finally did I realized I had procrastinated way too long and I only had 2 nights to finish this project out of the 2 weeks we had so I completely overcompensated. My dad's a builder so let's just say at a very young age I knew how to use power tools and there was a lot of wood laying around my house. I designed a car racing game that you'd bet on and there were 5 lanes on a wood track about 8 feet long that slopes downhill. I drilled holes in the lanes at the top and there was a board underneath on a hinge that had nails in it. The nails fit through the holes and when you ripped the lower board the nails would retract and release the cars. The way I accomplished the 60% house win was I hammered 2 of the 5 nails in a little bit farther than the other 3 so those cars would release slightly earlier. I would also mix up the Hot Wheels cars each time so people wouldn't quite catch on. I had a couple of sports cars and then some heavier ones like a dump truck and a school bus and so the weight difference between the cars gave the illusion of it being completely random. On presentation day I quickly realized I had completely over-engineered this casino game because most other people had just come up with card tricks or some variation on Plinko or Wheel of Fortune. So I had a chemistry assignment due last week and I did half of it the night before. To be fair, the ATA system has just been introduced and we had a crap ton of assignments all at one time, so I forgot to do it. But also was thinking, now I'll do it tomorrow night. YouTube is more important for my sanity than chemistry. This is literally me right now. I stalked all your comments because this sounded so familiar and I thought I might know you, but no. It's the Neo experiment where your mate got some under his eye. Not mine, but it still involves me. My boyfriend was assigned homework at the beginning of the semester in September that was due before Christmas break in December. He didn't do it despite me reminding him to over the course of those 3 months, and instead waited until my birthday, which is the 13th of December. To cancel my birthday plans and do homework instead, after he promised to make my birthday the best one ever. I don't celebrate my birthday because my parents ruined it for me as a kid and eventually didn't allow me to celebrate it any longer, so it's a very tainted day for me. I hadn't felt that unimportant in a long time. I had a very important 12-page paper to write for school. Had to do a lot of research to do for it. Think we got like 2 or 3 months to write it, and my dumb butt didn't want to get started until I actually forced myself to. A week before we had to turn it in, I slept about 20 hours in that whole week. I wrote down how much I slept on a note in my phone somewhere, going 2 days without any, while having to go to school, and I was actually a few minutes late on the day of the deadline because I was printing out the whole thing that morning. Little bit of advice, don't be like me. I did something similar my senior year of college. I had senioritis so bad. I tried to write my 12-page paper in one day. I had already done the research. Tried to pull an all-nighter that night. I didn't end up writing a full 12 pages and I thought I was going to fail it. I guess my professor knew I was about to graduate and went easy on me. I got a C. Waited till 1.5 hours before the deadline to write an art theory essay for school. Submitted it with 1 minute to spare and went to bed. It was due at midnight that night. 1 week later, I get my grade back, 96%. And this is why I still do art theory as an elective, folks. I was watching Friends on Netflix, but I had to crap, so I was like, oh frick it, I'll just crap after a few more episodes, and afterwards the urge to crap disappeared. The next morning I had to crap, but I was late for class and didn't have time to wash up in the bathroom, so unfortunately I didn't get to crap then either. A few hours pass and I still don't have to crap. Eventually this cycle went on for about a week and I ended up severely constipated. I would keep eating and eating but no shoots. Eventually my stomach felt so full all the time and I was always in pain, so I took a few laxatives and fell asleep. I wake up 6 hours later because I had a dream I was going to the bathroom, but when I woke up I crapped myself all over my bed. You really crap the bed this time. Met my soulmate and wanted to wait until I had my crap together. Long story short, by the time it was together she found someone else. Lesson learned. I've been wanting to apply to this web design course for a year. Applications were from May to the end of this month. Procrastinated and applied only in the end of August. Course has very little spots left now and I may not get in at all. Apparently it was a first come first serve thing. I feel terrible and desperate and I still don't know what I'm gonna do. Look up free web design courses on the internet. I'm sure there are plenty of free resources. Udemy also has a lot of cheap courses. This is how I got started in my field. That one time I had a coding project that I had a month to finish. In the beginning, I was like, there's a month. I can chill a bit this week. And then it was 3 weeks left. That should be enough time. I'll start tomorrow. Let's relax today. And all of a sudden it was only 1 week left of a month-long project and I hadn't even decided what I was going to code. I'm surprised by the answers, either everyone's young or rich. LOL. My worst procrastination is always bills. As in, I'll pay that next paycheck and saying it every pay until you're fricked. I do that so much I don't even think of it as procrastinating. More like just surviving. When I was 16 I had a massive essay in college that had about 20 different questions that you needed to write at least 2 pages for each one. Had from October to the end of August to do it, but wasted my time getting drunk and high since it was all new to me. Had loads of fun, but it ended up getting to August and I hadn't even started it. Managed to stressfully get it all done in 3 weeks but got kicked off the course anyway. So much regret. I keep telling myself that I could write my dissertation in just 1 week. I got all the data analysis ready, statistics and stuff. 1 month before deadline, I got bad case of anxiety. I just can't write. I get anxiety because I didn't write and I didn't write because my anxiety. The cycle keep going on for 1 month. I can't sleep well. I get tremors, palpitations and cold sweat at night. It was heck. Whenever you feel anxious, try chamomile tea before sleeping. It helps a lot. Literally right now, I have to make a tabletop drawing board due Friday last week. I lied to my teacher that I forgot it at home. Now I don't have any plans to make it at all. Starting the main part, 8,000 words of my final undergrad dissertation 2 weeks before it was due and only finishing it 12 hours before hand-in. Technically first draft and I got an A. I have issues with my mental and physical health, especially this past year, that made it really difficult to do assignments in good time. Also, I'm a procrastinator. Right now, I have 3 assignments due tonight. Frick, I need to get off Reddit. Not trying to get any sympathy points, but my dad always loved to go target shooting. We would go a lot in my mid-late 20s. He got diagnosed with bladder cancer a few years back and one day I just stopped going with him. I kept telling myself that I would go on my next week of vacation from work over and over again. Or my next weekend that I wasn't busy. We probably didn't go shooting for 2-ish years. He passed away in March and I keep thinking, dang, I wish I would have gone with him one more time. Forgot to cancel my subscription to the Calm app before the 7 days free trial ended and got charged £50. I'm milking that crap for every penny I can. But actually feel good for it. Joke's on me, I guess. Almost a month ago, I woke up on a Sunday having had a dream that I got a call from the nurse at my dad's care home saying he died. I hadn't talked to him since Father's Day, and I'd been meaning to call him. My dad had a neurodegenerative disorder and dementia, but there was no indication anything was acutely wrong. Calling him had become difficult for me emotionally in the last few years because with the dementia he would trail off and repeat the same small talk questions. So I didn't get anything out of it because all it was a reminder of the shell of his former self he'd become. Still, I did try to call every month or so. He lived on the other side of the country. His time zone was 3 hours earlier than me, so I usually waited till evening. Evening came and I was in the middle of a really good writing session. And like I said, I always sort of dreaded calling him. So it slipped my mind until I was making dinner. But then I was busy cooking, so I thought I'd call him when I was done. I sit down on the couch with my boyfriend about to eat and I get the phone call from the nurse that my dad passed away unexpectedly. Got an autopsy and he'd had a heart attack. How the frick I had a dream about it the night before it happened, I'll never know. But I didn't take the prophecy seriously, so I didn't get to talk to him one last time. I'm still trying not to beat myself up about it, but frick. Had a massive project in college that, while not for a grade, was the only thing that would allow me to get a license to teach. Meaning if I failed, I'd have a degree, but be totally unable to do anything with it. We were supposed to be working on it all semester, but naturally I waited until 3 days before it was due. So, I went to one of our dorm study rooms and set up shop. I worked on that project for 3 days, leaving to get food, do a presentation in another class, which I'd also procrastinated, and occasionally play Smash Brothers to give my mind a break. I slept maybe 4 hours the entire 3 days. After I turned it in, I slept for 13 hours straight. It was amazing. So, I had this project at school, but the teacher gave us a lot of time to do it, so I didn't really start doing it at all. Just before class, my friend had a conversation, and here's what we said. Him: so how's your project? Me: not finished. Him: but you know that today is the last day we can show it to our teacher, right? I'm on my deathbed and I never asked my high school crush out on a date yet. She's 2 deathbeds over getting her last rites. We had 2 deadlines for our thesis, one end of May, one in August. We had a minimum word count of 15,000. I had 1,000 words a week before the deadline in August, and that's exactly when I panicked. This was also the week when I started to listen to whale sounds for relaxation. I had the outline kinda done, but I didn't start writing a paper until like 10 PM at night and it was due the next day. Even played a game of capture the flag around 6-8 p.m. and lost my outline, which fell out of my pocket while running, so I had to retrace my steps on campus to search for it. Got an A. It wasn't just any A though. I went to UC Berkeley and my grader was a Harvard graduate. She said it was one of the best papers she read as a C. Little did she know. That's why it's very useful to outline. I did spend a considerable amount of time outlining though. I just always put off writing the paper because I can. Also did the same start and finish the day before thing, but still had an outline with the first draft of my thesis proposal in grad school. Although I did have a good 24 hours to write it, advisor said it was the best well-written paper she got from a student, probably because none of her previous students had English degrees. The key to a good paper is clarity and brevity. Don't be overly wordy or convoluted. People want to be able to read something and not have to go, wait, what? That's why outlining is useful, especially if you're a procrastinator who likes to chip away at things. Whoa, as someone who hates writing essays with a passion, this was some much needed advice. Maybe I should start writing outlines from now on to hopefully make my essay writing process less torturous. Putting money in my savings account after grad school. I saved up enough money after undergrad and spent it on my tuition of my grad school degree. I landed my supposed dream job and just wanted to relax a bit, thinking I could save money eventually. A year or 3 months later, they brought me into a meeting with HR to tell me they were terminating me for some political BS. It's a long story. I took a huge gulp and looked at my savings. Thankfully employment insurance covered some of it during that time. Found another job in 3 months and learned an extremely valuable lesson. Thankfully, it was only a little over 1 year that I was being reckless. I have a real hard time cleaning my house because depression. But last week I put on my big boy pants and told myself to clean the house. I picked up some trash and did the dishes, then saw the rest of the house and thought it's only Saturday. I can do the rest tomorrow. And then I didn't. Now I've got flies and crap buzzing around. Not the worst it could be, but even I know how gross the place is. Didn't change my cat's pee pad in her litter box for a week and a half. Boy howdy did I never make that mistake again. I was dry heaving something fierce. Not the worst, but I'm definitely wasting my life on this subreddit right now instead of doing my public speaking paper that's hanging in the next tab. Went to school for music production sound engineering. I was a decent enough keyboard player that I got many offers to join various bands, but competition is fierce. If only I had been quicker to follow up with anyone. Every single time I've had to get something notarized, which unfortunately is like 3 times in as many months. It takes like 3 follow-up emails for me to drag my butt into the bank to do this. I'm that guy. What an archaic, stupid process. Right now, I am supposed to have written a whole essay in about 2 hours from now and I am barely halfway through the outline. Played video games for too long, lost track of time, forgot to get my kid from school. Had multiple calls from the school but my phone was on do not disturb. It was 3 hours after school ended by the time I picked him up. I once started a psychology paper after it was due. Ended up failing the class cause the paper was worth 40% of the grade. Couldn't stop playing video games and started gaining weight. Didn't care for a long time until one day I realized I was 26 kilograms overweight. Some jackwagon hit my car and totaled it. Totally his fault. He turned from a no turning lane into me. Dude had lapsed insurance and waffled on suing him. The year I can do so comes and goes, and I kinda regret it. I figure he has no cash, and I would be out a little more than I am now. School project with my friend. We had to make a video about a book. I didn't really understand the assignment at first, but I figured I'd find out later, about a week before the deadline. Though I thought it was further away, I asked my friend what we were gonna do. No response. The day before THD deadline, which I believe I found out the day before that, I had a complete panic attack and we ended up doing just a PowerPoint presentation a week later. When I was an undergrad few years ago, very stressful. I had a flight to catch as well. So, I was working on the paper before the taxi. Then, I worked on it at the airport and on the plane. Then, I submitted it right at the deadline time when I was on the plane. Last Wednesday I had a presentation with my company's CEO. Instead of practicing a week before like a normal human being, I practiced 10 minutes before the actual presentation. I'm okay about not procrastinating on things like assignments and studying, but I frequently procrastinate on going to sleep. Then I realize that I have uni in 3 hours and I haven't had so much as a nap. I put off doing online credit recovery in high school for 2 years and ended up having to do 3 years worth of math work in the 3 weeks leading up to my graduation. In my film and literature class in college, we were supposed to keep a running journal of some kind. It wasn't exactly a journal, but it was a continuous project that contained our responses to the books we read and movies we watched all semester, and it could take whatever format we wanted. I kept putting it off, even though I had a cool idea. I was super into Sprite comics at the time, both Bob and George and 8-bit theater were really big, so I wanted to do mine in comic format. Not only did I have to make the comics and figure out my responses last minute, but I also had to make the custom sprites to reflect the books and movies. That took up most of the time. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.